Hey you guys, thanks for joining us here at Localite. I'm John Compton. Today on the show I am talking with the Chief of the Hood River Fire Department, Devon Wells. And so Chief Wells is here just to talk to us about what it is he does and what the fire department does in general besides just fight fires. So Chief Wells, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
All right if I call you Devon?
It's fine, yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's start off with one of the events that recently occurred here in the Gorge, the Lyle fire. But you guys weren't actually fighting that fire, and why not?
Well, when fires occur in Washington, it's difficult for us to cross state lines.
Okay.
And the main reason that is that in Washington there's no tort liability limit. In Oregon we have a tort liability limit, and so there's a big difference between tort liability. Okay. And so that's unfortunately between state governments that really dictates when we can go across state lines. But we do go over once in a while and help out. This fire they handled with their Forest Service resources and Department of Natural Resources.
So then, when there's a fire that, maybe gets national attention and you hear of surrounding states and different, forces coming in from other areas, what makes that possible? Why is there a difference in those situations? Just the significant size?
Yeah, a lot of those fires become what's called project fires with the U.S. Forest Service. And if it's run by a federal government, by the U.S. Forest Service, then they can bring resources from all over the nation. And those are contracted resources, or they bring in other Forest Service firefighters from other areas of the state or even the region. And once it becomes that size of a fire, then they can really open up the resource abilities. And once it gets to a federal fire, then if they want to contract with the Hood River Fire Department or Mid-Columbia Fire and Rescue and bring us over, then that's a whole different story, because then we're working for the federal government, not working by ourselves in a different state.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's talk then just for a short time. Give us some context around what it means to be a fire chief.
The fire chief is the executive officer of the department. It'd be the same as a CEO of some corporation. And so we do a lot of management. We do the leadership of the department. We do all the decision making. And when it comes down to what happens in the fire department, the chief is the one that ultimately makes those decisions. Obviously we delegate as much as we can to ranks, but the fire chief does respond on calls, at least in the smaller departments like the Hood River Fire Department. I go on calls. I don't pull hose. I don't put air packs on and go inside the fire anymore. My main job is incident management.
All right.
So I stay outside and coordinate the crews that are outside of the fire.
So how many folks are in the Hood River Fire Department that are actually employed and not just volunteer?
We have 14 paid firefighters that are on, firefighter paramedics that are on shift, plus myself, so 15 total paid employees.
Okay, and is that pretty normal for a fire department of your size?
I believe so, yeah. Mid-Columbia has a few more than that. They've got a larger jurisdiction than we have.
Well, before we started taping, I was kind of talking about some of the differences, or not so much the differences, but just some of the things that firefighters do, and they're not always fighting fires. In fact, there's more time spent doing emergencies. I think you call them all hazards, going out on calls for that versus actually fighting fires.
Exactly. When fire department started, that's what firefighters did. That's all they did. They fought fire. And nowadays, about 75 to 80% of our calls are medical related. So we do a lot of EMS calls, running ambulance calls, going out and transporting people to the hospital. And in addition to that, we do hazardous materials calls. We do fuel leaks, we do gas line breaks, we do power lines down, trees falling over, cats in the trees. We do
cats in the trees,
tracks in the keys. We do 4 or 5 of those calls a year, and so it's definitely called an all hazards department now.
Well, obviously, I would assume that younger people are probably drawn to being a firefighter for sort of the excitement and the adrenaline of it. Do you find, because of what you had said about a lot of the calls that you go on aren't necessarily to go run into burning buildings and save lives that way, do you find any firefighters being sort of disillusioned?
I think for the most part, they know what they're getting into. All the shows you see on TV show that firefighters, all they do is fight fire. That's all we do, 24 hours a day. We're just out there pounding house fires, and that's just not what happens. It's not realistic anymore, which is a great thing. Our prevention side of things has taken care of house fires, and the way we do build construction houses and the way we have sprinklers now in a lot of homes and in commercial buildings, our incidence of large raging fires is decreased dramatically, which is great. That's what we're here for. We're here to prevent fires before we actually go fight fires. And so firefighters that are coming into the service, sure, they want to be involved in that kind of stuff. They're excited about it, but they're also aware right up front that, you know, you're not just going to be going fighting fires every day. You're going to be going on ambulance calls. You're going to be going helping people, and people should be getting in the fire service for doing that kind of thing to help the community.
At least in my mind, I've always imagined that, you know, firefighters are like tip-top shape. You know, they're working out all the time. You know, they're pumping iron when they're not out on a call, waiting for a call. Have the physical limitations been lifted somewhat because you're not going out and fighting as many fires as before, or is it still the same?
Still the same, or it's even more now.
Really?
Yeah, you know, firefighter health and safety is a huge topic in the nation right now, and 50% of our firefighters that die a year, about 100 firefighters die in the line of duty every year in the nation, and 50% of those are dying because of health-related issues, either cardiac arrests or strokes or other medical problems. And so health and wellness is really becoming a very hot topic in the fire service. It's something that we really are focusing on. And so physical fitness is probably more important now than it ever has been.
Ever before. Okay. Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, you guys, I want to talk to Chief Devon Wells about some of the other things that they do and some of the partnerships they have going, and just feature the fire department in general. So stick around. We'll be right back.